Thank you. You're welcome. Sure it doesn't slide. I think it's good. Thank you. Okay, here we go. I think I'm sorted. Sorted, not sorted. Maybe sorted, I don't know. Laura, alcoholic, so the sober date is February 23rd, 2013. I have a sponsor. I sponsor women, and my sponsees sponsor people. So I'm in the middle of the program. I am so grateful to be here today and share my experience, strength, and hope with you around step 10. I would like to say a prayer, please, to get my heart in the right place and to get us all on the same place. So here we go. God, today, help me set aside everything I think I know about you, everything I think I know about myself, everything I think I know about others, and everything I think I know about my own recovery, so I may have an open mind and a new experience with all these things. Amen. Amen. So we are on step 10, and I'm going to do a quick recap to kind of get the people that haven't been here all the time up to speed. How we got here. So step 1, admitted we were powerless over alcohol and our lives became unmanageable. I drank far too much for far too long, and I lost control of where and when I drank once I started drinking. And it culminated after about 30 years of binge drinking. I had an experience one night where I embarrassed myself and my family, and my husband said, "You had better get yourself to an AA a meeting." So I called my brother who was in the program, and he got, I was out of town at the time, and he arranged for me to go to an AA meeting the next morning. So I went to that AA meeting, and I heard what I needed to hear. I heard hope. I was so hungover. But I heard what I needed to hear through those hungover. And so I got some women's numbers, and they gave me a homework assignment, and that was to read the doctor's opinion and Bill's story. So I went home, ate a greasy breakfast, and read the doctor's opinion and found there that it was an allergy and it wasn't a moral defect in me. And that gave me a lot of relief. And then I also read that I was going to need to have a spiritual portion to get sober and stay sober. And then I read further in, and I read that I could choose my own spiritual path, and it did not require church, and it could be a one-on-one relationship with my higher power, and I could choose that. And so that gave me a lot of freedom and a lot of liberty, and I could do that with AA. So then I started to read Bill's story, and I identified very much with Bill's. I was really leery reading a story about an Army guy and not a Navy guy, I identified a lot with that, and then after I started to read his recovery, and there was so much hope in that story, I got a number of a meeting in Jacksonville on that first Sunday night, and I came home. I went to a meeting. They told me about a couple of other meetings, and I was going on a 6-week business trip, and I knew that I needed to get as much AA in me to be prepared for that 6-week business trip before I wasn't going to be able to stay sober. And my intuition was telling me that I was not going to make it through that 6-week business trip, that there was going to be death or an institution. And so I was afraid to go on that 6-week business trip. So by step 3, the second day of my sobriety, I found someone that was willing to be a sponsor. I found out what a sponsor was, and I found Claire to be my sponsor. And she took me to so many meetings in the next 48 hours. I got to a speaker meeting. I got to a book study meeting. I got to a step study meeting. I got to an 8 o'clock meeting that was another type of a speaker meeting. We actually went to a recovery meeting in a recovery center. I think we went to Wakaiba. So, I mean, she dragged me all around town in 48 hours, and I went to so many different recovery meetings. But it was so good because I had a belly full of AA, and I had heard so much about the steps. So by the time I was ready to go to Las Vegas, I had my eyes open about AA and what recovery meant. And she asked me if I was ready to pray the third step prayer. And by that time I was. And so I did pray the third step prayer, and I had that under my belt as I left for Las Vegas with an all expense trip, and this 6 weeks, this 6 week trip. And I learned step 3 is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to God as we understood him. And so that first business trip was a trade show, and it was a lot of drinking, and I was the tab payer, right? And so we had wine tasting and bourbon tastings and big steak dinners with lots and lots. And so, you know, I learned through other alcoholics that I could open the bar tab and leave. I didn't have to stay to close it. And so I could settle up in the morning. And so those were tricks and things that I learned. And I learned to turn over when I got things, if things were unsettling to me, I could just turn it over. And I learned the habit of turning my ring. And I turned my ring over. So I learned to surrender to God. Then when I got back a couple of months later, I had to do a fearless moral inventory. And that was step 4. And I bucked at that. I did not want to do that because I had told so many years, I had gone to psychiatrists, and I did not want to do that. And I had been on such a pattern of telling them lies, and I had my story down. And this fearless moral inventory made me dissect and decompose the stories I had into a person, 5 words, and check marks. And so I couldn't spin my story anymore. I had to get it down into this where it was me, no lies, and where it specifically affected me and my ego. And so I finally got it done. It took 3 or 4 iterations, but I finally got it done. And then I met my sponsor for step 5 in a very loud diner that I had done a lot of crying in. And I admitted to God, to myself, and to another human being the exact nature of what was on that 4th step. And there were some big, big, big things on that 4th step that I swore I would never tell anybody. They were dark secrets that I worried that I was going to get Alzheimer's and it was going to come out. I mean, they were that kind of secret, right? And so they were that kind of secret. So, so I was, so anyway, I shared those with Claire. And and then she helped me stand in the other people's shoes and look at a lot of those things in different eyes. And I gained a lot of compassion, and I gained a lot of insight. And then, you know, we realized that, you know, I had looked at and judged myself very harshly. And I was a very stern judge and a very harsh critic of other people as well. And so once we looked at that and had a different, we were able to see a pattern and character defects of me. And we were able to see a pattern of behavior. And once I armed with that, we were ready for step 6, where I was entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, because what came out of that 5th step was not ready. And so I was ready to have those things removed, but I had to do a little bit of self-reflection before. And I had to make sure all the work I had done prior to that was good, and that I had built a firm arch to walk through and do the rest of the steps. So I did that in reflection, and I looked at all my work, and I had done a good job. So there we are through step 6. Through step 7, humbly asked him to remove my shortcomings. So here, up to this point in my life, I did everything myself. I drove that damn bus, and I drove it straight into a wall. And so here I'm asking God to help me do something different. I'm asking him to change me. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to change myself and get grace and mercy. And I'm not. So here I'm asking God to please help me remove these defects of character that are obstacles to my growth. Please, God, help me do this. I can't do this. And I have evidence of that I've just gone through, and I can't do it. So I need God to do that. So I am ready to do the work. I'm ready to make changes and have my character change. So then step 8 is I'm ready to make a list of all the people we harmed and willing to make amends. And so I get out that 4th step and I start scribbling down a list. And now I've grown a little bit, right? I've done my step 7. I've had some character defects removed. And all of a sudden I see a few other people that I need to add to that list of amends. So I've got this list. And so I take it to my sponsor and we start working through the list. And I have the responsibility to make amends to these people. Now, amends means I've changed. So I've done some changing and I've changed my behavior. So I'm really ready to look at these people instead of saying, it's not me. I'm ready to take responsibility and I'm ready to say, okay, I did this harm to this person. I'm working with my sponsor and saying, we need to do this kind of amends. Because I'm going to say, wasn't that bad. Don't need to do anything. But she's going to hold my feet to the fire. And for all these different things, she's got, and we'll work together and say, these are immediate amends, these are sometimes amends. And as you all know, as I said last week, God edits that list. And so, I had a never amends that God did, 8 days after my talk with my sponsor on the plane. So, he edits that and we have to be willing to have that go. So then that leads us to step 10, which we're going to talk about today. And so I've settled the past. And step 10, continue to take a personal inventory when we were wrong and promptly admitted it. So we've cleaned up the past, or we're willing to clean up the past. We haven't made all of our amends. There's still some out there, but I'm not going to cross the street when I see somebody from my past, right? If I see them and they're on my amends list, I'm going to say something to them and get that cleared up. Or if they're in Publix, I'm not going to run down the other aisle and go to the produce department. So I'm going to make that amends, and I'm not afraid of my past anymore. I've cleared up the past. I now have serenity. I can hear God's voice. I'm in communion with him. And I know what serenity feels like. I know what it looks like in my life. And I have a clear channel of communication. And I know when I mess up, I can feel it. And so I need a way to clear that. So on page 84 and 85, we are given 10 instructions on how to, and they're not suggestions, they are how to do these daily inventories. And I'll list them out real quickly because we're going to talk about them throughout the rest of this time together. One is that we continue doing them, right? The next one is we set right our mistakes. We vigorously commence this way of living. It's not a thing that we do. It's a way of living, which means it's iterative. And God's a gentleman, so he participates because I ask him, right? So I have to continually ask for his participation in this. We enter the world of spirit, and that means we're in a different plane. And we're not ourselves. We're not driving the bus. We're not doing things ourselves. So we're in a different plane. We grow in understanding and effectiveness. And this is over the rest of our lives. We're seekers, right? So we're not, we're trying to get our lives when we're living in serenity. We're not doing things over and over again because we hurt people. So we're more effective because we're operating at a different plane. We watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear, and we pray God every day to remove them when they do show up. We call someone to discuss, so that's where we have our sponsors and we have our network of people. So, we're having chronic problems or we have, even occasional problems, we ask and talk to our friends. We turn to service if we're having a chronic problem with fear. Or, we're finding ourselves, being dishonest. We'll call somebody and we'll say, hey, just how was your day, right? We'll do something, or we'll go to a meeting and we'll read, or do something to get out of ourselves. And then we have a vision of God's will for our plan, for our activities. And that's at the evening time when I plan for tomorrow, where I kind of lay out my day for the next day. So step 10 is the second time that we're asked to do an inventory. So we have the 4th, and then we've seen benefit when we did the 4th inventory and how liberating it was and how freeing it was. So when we're asked to do this 10th step on a daily basis, I wasn't afraid of doing it. I was welcome to do it so I could keep my slate clean. And when I started doing those, I was like, I could see the benefit of keeping that, because it helped me know that I wasn't keeping a little mess over here in the corner. I was always keeping my slate clean and not rebuilding resentments with people. So it helped me do that. So I have 4 different types of inventories that I use. And so I have an immediate spot inventory that when I step on somebody's toes, I sense it immediately. I have an end of day inventory. Then I have a monthly inventory that I do with my sponsor, like how am I doing? We'll have a phone call, or, we'll go for a walk, and, just overall, how am I doing? Am I being a seeker? Am I in tune? What do you see? Are there big flaws? We'll do that. And then I travel a lot. And so I'll take one day and just compare myself to where I was last year and where do I want to go next year. And just overall compare where I am as a human and as a spiritual being. Where am I? So those are the kind of 4 inventories that I do. The book also talks about a spiritual axiom, and this was something that was so new to me because it's always your fault. And so this spiritual axiom was, it's about me. It's my fault. When I'm disturbed, it's my fault. I have to start looking at me. And so, anytime I start to feel that choky feeling or I get that hot red, I'm not happy about something, I have to stop. What's wrong with me? Where am I? Am I being selfish? Am I in fear? What am I going to lose? Why don't I like this situation? And so I can stop right away and say, what's happening? And I have 2 choices. I can push on with my displeasure, right? And get this all the way to somewhere where I'm going to need to make an amends, or I can let it go. And those are the choices. And the more mature and the more spiritually fit I am, the more often I can let it go. And I can say, these are things that really aren't important, or sometimes they are important. And sometimes I don't catch myself in time. So I know that I can do something about it. And then, I do not have the luxury of justifiable anger, and I can justify anything. And those who know me well will tell you I'm a great justifier. And that's a character defect. I know it. And God's still working on me. But I can get angry and I can justify it. And I don't have the luxury of that, because that is a very, very, it's a dangerous, dangerous thing. And it keeps my eye on God. It keeps it's harmful to the people around me, and it wastes energy. And I don't have the luxury. The book talks all about it, but it is a luxury that I cannot afford. It's for other people. So I need to find out when I see that, I have to just stop everything. If I have to get up out of the room and do things. But that is a big one that I need to really change things. And because otherwise it's going to end up in my end of night, or it's going to end up, I have to make an amends when that happens. So I do for the day, I have a loose for the day. I start my day with a prayer and ask for self-restraint, so I don't have selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. We've talked about this new way of life. I try and respond instead of react. I have this teeter-totter, that I'm going on with the balance of emotions. So that is my second defense mechanism. And then talked about, I can judge, when I feel something going on, I can decide, is it a big deal? And let it go. And then my 4th option, obviously, is I have to make an amends if I don't react, if I don't respond, and I react. So that's kind of my loose 4 plan. And so I've got a couple of inventories I thought I would share with you. And you all like my examples I hear. So I will give you a couple of examples. So you know, at home is always where it can be the most. And, my husband's watching, so I have to be careful. So, hi, honey. The dishwasher is a great one, right? So, you know, that's the nuclear household item. So, you know, I can cook dinner or my husband usually, if he cooks, you know, he drags it out, I put it away. So, you know, I'll go to clean up and the dishwasher's full. And I can go nuclear on that. It's like, why in the world did somebody empty the dishwasher? Same thing with the dryer. It's like you were washing your dryer folding. Why did you not get the clothes when you washed your dryer? So I literally could just blow up the house over that. I mean, just scream. And it's like, somebody get in here, just and you know, and just disharmonize the house. I mean, scream, get everybody up out of the living room, get in here, march orders, because that's how I was raised. That's how I was modeled. And you know, I could do that. Or I could say it's not that big of a deal. I can just let it go, empty the dishwasher, and just go on about my business. So that is one of those things where I have to police myself and take care of that emotional outburst, make amends to myself and my family, because I did not want to blow up, right? And take that inventory and just move on with my day. And so, you know, that happens with, is the house cleaned up? Did somebody get the mail? Are the dogs walked? You know, all these little things around the house, all of those little things. I used to blow up. I would slam doors. I would sulk. I would get angry. I would stomp out of the house. I would be a stomper. You know, all of those things, they're just not that big of a deal. I would make federal cases out of it. And because my ego is this big. I am so important. You should be doing these things for me, Queen Laura. And the truth of the matter is, my ego belongs here. I'm this big, this big. And I'm a servant of other people. And so I don't deserve to have other people serving me. I'm just one of y'all. And, you know, I don't like the idea of a bozo on the bus, but I am, you know, I'm just another human being on this earth, trying to get along, trying to be of service. And so when I keep my ego in that frame of mind, I don't really care that the dishwasher's not unloaded. You know, I'll walk the dogs. It's not that big of a deal. So, so that's that one, and it happens all the time. So the other one is, I was not so good. I really lost it. And so this one you guys will love. I am the chairperson of a landscape committee. I live in a high rise. And so I shouldn't have told you the punchline. I should have waited and built like a drama. But anyway, so I'm the chairperson of the landscape committee, and we have a budget. And so we have a bunch of us that had worked on this project. And so we were getting ready to, it's a $5,000 budget, and we worked on landscaping this part of our property. And we worked very hard, and we're ready to let the PO go. And so we were talking to our property manager and said, okay, here's everything. And we got it down to $5,000 and we're ready to go. And she says, well, you only have $4,400 left in the budget. There was an irrigation repair that was put against your budget. And, you know, our irrigation repairs belongs clearly in repairs and maintenance. And I was a past president for 4 years. I know these things. So I hit the roof. And I let out a scream and a rant and a fury, and I scared everybody. I mean, I literally was like, what did you mean? That belongs in repairs and maintenance. Who did that? That treasurer's an idiot. And, you know, she left the country for a month, and I'm going to escalate. I'm going to the president. That does not belong in there. We have a board meeting minutes that gives us $5,000 budget. I'm going to override this. Just and so, you know, and then I called myself and so this probably went on for a minute and a half, maybe. And I was like, oh my God, I said, I am so sorry. And I said, don't worry about it, we'll get this fixed, and I was like bipolar, I was like, this, and then it was like, I'm so sorry, apologies. And I said, I'll get this sorted out, we don't have to do it here. And I said, I am so sorry you guys witnessed my fury. And I said, I usually keep it under wraps or I don't get so worked up. I said, but, this is a particularly testy situation. And so I said, I'll just sort it, out of this meeting. So, it took about 10 days. I did get the budget back and we did get the project approved. And, but, it was under my skin, and it takes, but I was so embarrassed, that I blew up like that. And but I was glad that I caught myself and didn't. Ordinarily, I would slam the thing shut, stomped out of there, ended the meeting, not with the right, motion to adjourn, like, we're done. And, so I was grateful that I was able to catch mine. It was just like that. It was really just so quick. And apologize and got everything. We were able to finish the meeting and, and then I was clear-headed to be able to, fix the problem. But, I'm grateful that I have this way of living, that I don't have to damage people. As they're probably a little scared to make me mad again, but that's, I did apologize, and I don't like those outbursts, and that's, I've only been sober for 10 years. God's working, and I'm a little slow, so but I'm willing to change, and I'm willing to make those amends, and I'm willing to be guided. And be guided by God and be changed. And that's all I can do. It's progress, not perfection. I'm going to change a little bit every day and I'm going to learn. So I was another example. I was driving in an unfamiliar multi-lane traffic circle in another town. And it was one of those, it was like 3 lanes. And, they go, different directions. And I drove around it 3 times and I could not, and I'm a pretty smart cookie. And I've been driving for a very long time and I really could not figure how to get out. And so, these are designed by civil engineers. So, and I couldn't figure out how to get out. So I just put my signal on and just, let's go. And so, off I went, and, I made someone very upset, and I got a honk, and I got a 1-finger salute, and so we end up next to each other at a stoplight, which is the most embarrassing thing in the world. And so I look over, and it's like, that was the only amends. I couldn't get out to do a hug, and so I was sorry, and that was the only thing I could do. And so, it was a causeway, it was in Clearwater. And so we're, like this down the causeway. And then she has to merge because she needs to go to the airport. And it's tight. And so she needs to merge in. So it's like, no fingers, no sneer, nothing, please, So, that was the only thing I could think of to do, is to please, come in. But, I really did not mean to, but, ordinarily I would have just driven on and not given a second thought, but I really felt bad, and did not mean to. And I had really given it my best shot, to get out of that traffic circle, It was, and the San Marco train was another one. I used to just rage at that train. And then when I got sober, I started, I think Bob Colgan may be the one that taught me about this, the Serenity train. And so, to just take it for a minute and just use it as a minute to be prayerful and have a quiet minute. And I was like, wow, what a paradigm shift. And so I was like, okay, I can do that. So it took a couple of times, I would get mad. Oh, wait, I'm supposed to think about this in a different way, And so it was just that inventory of I can pick and choose, what am I going to do? I can be mad, and then I can always call. I'm going to be late for an appointment while I'm here, because it's a two-way train and it's going slow, and, so you can just call. And those are times where I can, choose my reaction, and I can not be angry, because that's my internal self. And then if I end up being angry, I'm going to be angry at the appointment. I'm going to be angry for the rest of the day. So I have that opportunity to change my emotion and check myself emotionally so I don't ruin the rest of the day for everybody else. And that's, I do inventory my thinking quite a bit, because if I get the FS and say, I'm not going to read today, I'm not going to go to a meeting today, I'm not going to do, I'm going to just stay in a snit about the train. I get off the beam. And if I get off the beam, I'm setting my target to go to the Bahamas, for sailing analogy, and I get 2 degrees off, 3 degrees off, I'm going to end up at a completely different island because I'm off the beam. And so if I don't keep my inventory right and police my thoughts, I get off the beam, and then I'm, no good to anybody. So I need to have that discipline of my own thoughts and that rigor of my own thoughts where I gotta check that. So I need to hear God's direction and God's, little correction, because if I don't keep that channel open and clear, then I'm not going to hear him when he says, call her, she needs some help, go give her a hug, because it's a still, quiet voice. And if I don't have that in my ability to hear, because I have all this clutter going on, because I'm justifying not going to the meeting, I'm justifying why I didn't read, and I'm justifying all these things, I'm not going to hear God's still, quiet voice. And that's what is so important to my serenity today. And because it also tells me, he helps me with my character too, and that's still, quiet voice. So that is so important for me to be able to have the ability to be able to listen to that and have my spirit and serenity clear, because it's a quality of my serenity that is so important that this daily inventory does. And so that's the daily and the spot inventory. So the nightly inventory is important too, because if I have done a good job of my daily and spot inventory, I go and review my nightly inventory, and then I look through my day, and I may not have caught that I was a little snarky in a meeting, and I just may not have caught it, and I can say, oh, I was a little snarky. And I forgot, God was kind of niggling at me to say something kind to the cashier, and I didn't. I was too busy fuddling with my checkout app or something, and I remembered, I got that nudge and I didn't do that. And so I look throughout my day with intensity, and I look through that and say, I could have done this better. I did this really well. And, I called my sponsor, I did my readings, I got to a meeting. So I give myself all my check marks and, look at the things I did well that make my sobriety good and make me I'm doing the things that are repetitive and doing those things. And then I look where are the things where I fall down and my character is, I got mad again. I was justifying things again. I didn't drink enough water, didn't go for my walk, so I look for those things that I can do better tomorrow. And then I look for tomorrow, I look at tomorrow's day, and I see, okay, I've got 4 appointments, it's going to be a really busy day, so I'm going to need to remember to keep my calm and go slow and don't rush. And so I have to start the day with that mindset of peaceful and slow. And otherwise, if I just jump out of bed, get to my 7 a.m. and then just run, and I don't prepare, that know it's going to be a busy day. I have to start the day with a slow mindset and ask God to keep with me. I'm going to be driving the bus again, and I'm just going to go from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. And then I'm going to have to, in my mind, go, oops, I did it again. Sorry. Oops, I was rude and mean. Sorry. And, and I try and get through the day without those sorries, So as I go through my nightly inventory and look at what tomorrow is, I look and see where there's going to be those trouble spots. And I say a prayer, God, give me the patience and give me the ability. And if it's going to be something that I'm fearful of, help me get that and see what I'm going to be afraid of. That's where that nightly inventory is so important. And then you can look at your day and you can rest easy because you haven't really kind of left anything on the field. And then you say your prayers and ask God, your Lord's Prayer, whatever, and ask God, what is it I need for tomorrow? And it gives us just enough, because our prayers are for today. We live one day at a time. And so, give us our daily bread. And then he does, and he does that every day for us. And we find, as we look over the span of our sobriety, he's been faithful, and we can trust that he'll be faithful again tomorrow. So with that, I will bid you adieu, and we will talk about steps to 11.